Today I will again be talking about Manchester United because there has been an absolute shitstorm swirling Manchester United ever since they lost 2-0 to Liverpool on Sunday. And as usual, there was an absolute gross overreaction from Manchester United fans. This time on the negative side, it seems that anytime something happens with the club, there is always an overreaction by the fans, whether it's bad or good. So, in this example, let's start with a good example. At the start of the season, we beat Chelsea 4-0. All of a sudden, United fans are crying that we're going to challenge for the title. We're going to be a for sure top 4 team, when in actuality, that was an anomaly. I don't think we scored more than 2 goals in a game for another couple months after that. And we just jump on very little things very quickly and just run with them. And again, this is what we are getting after the Liverpool game on Sunday. Liverpool have 64 points this season. The max amount of points that they could have at this stage of their season is 66 points. They have dropped 2 points for the entire season. Those 2 points, by the way, came against Manchester United, but that is absolutely beside the point. Liverpool have won 21 out of 22 games, and United fans are crying that we need to fire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and wholesale everything because of one result. It is absolutely true that we need a lot of changes, especially from the board standpoint and personnel-wise, the players that we put out. But to pin all of this on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for losing 2-0 to one of the best teams the Premier League or English football has ever seen, Liverpool look like they are going to go invincible. And not the Arsenal invincible, where they draw a lot of games and it's not a humongous amount of victory. They have a game in hand on Man City after only playing 22 games, and they are up by 16 points. They win that game in hand, they're up by 19 points. When Arsenal went invincible, they won by, I think it was 10 points. Obviously, take nothing away from Arsenal's invincible run. That was incredible. But it does not parallel to what Liverpool are doing right now, and if they can maintain what they are doing right now. They have allowed 14 goals all season. The next best defensive record is Sheffield United with 22. It's not close to how good this team is compared to the rest of the Premier League. So how can we pin everything on Solskjaer right now? Look at the squad of players available for Manchester United. Not even counting right now that Marcus Rashford is going to be out for a considerable amount of time. Jesse Lingard or Andreas Pereira have to start every single game. Every single game that we play, there is one of those 2 players on the field. That in itself just shows you the caliber of squad that we have. When you have to play one of those, you have to play one of those 2. You've seen all over the Twitter in the last couple days. Alisson has more assists than Jesse Lingard does this season. Jesse Lingard has not registered offensive output, whether it be a goal or assist, since December of 2018. Not 2019, 2018. It has been over a year since Jesse Lingard provided any sort of offensive output. And it's not like Jesse Lingard is a maestro pulling the strings in midfield. His game is revolved around his offensive output. It's not revolved around his playmaking ability in the midfield. So when he has absolutely no output and you have to play him consistently, what on earth do you think he's going to do for your squad? Absolutely nothing. And Andreas Pereira is only a tick above how good Jesse Lingard is. Andreas Pereira, what does he do? What does he do well? Again, not a midfield maestro. He's not pulling the strings. He's a sideways passer. He's not going to feed you that killer ball in behind to get you to score goals. Martial and Rashford tend to have to create a lot for themselves. I like Dan James. Dan James, by the way, has been getting a lot of criticism lately. What did you expect? You signed this guy for £15 million from Swansea in the Championship, and not a good team in the Championship. What did we realistically expect to get from Dan James? He has absolutely blown his expectations out of the water. We cannot be overly upset with what he's done so far. What? Harry Maguire? What else has he purchased? Dan James? What else has he purchased? Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who has been outstanding this season, except for against Liverpool. He wasn't tremendous on Sunday. We'll concede to that. But look at the entire squad. He's purchased 3 players. He has purchased 3 players, one of which is not a starter every single game when you look at Dan James. And when he bought him, he wasn't supposed to be as good as this. So his output has been much better than expected. Could you imagine what we would be dealing with without him at the start of the season? I know Mason Greenwood can now take in that spot. But if he didn't start very well at the start of the season, Lingard and Pereira would both have to start. Could you imagine having to deal with that? Look at the midfield right now. Without McTominay, we have to start Nemanja Matic every game. He should not be playing for a team like Manchester United. That should not be happening. Fred has been much better this season. He was tremendous against Liverpool. Probably the only player who had any sort of promising display against Liverpool. But look at other teams in the Premier League. Look at the teams who have had success in the last couple of years. Man City and Liverpool. When Pep Guardiola got hired, how many players remain on the squad from when he was hired? Minimal. Like the big ones, David Silva, Aguero. Nothing really sticks out to me other than those that are playing consistently right now. I don't know if I think Fernandinho was also there. Yeah, Fernandinho was also there. Look at Liverpool when Jurgen Klopp got hired. Look where Liverpool were positioned in the Premier League at that time when Klopp got hired. Hey, what, did they finish 7th in their first season with Jurgen Klopp? No trophies for 3.5 years? How many players remain from Jurgen Klopp's initial Liverpool squad? Next to none. Like Alberto Moreno, James Milner. Was James Milner there? Probably. Point is, very minimal amounts of players remain from when those managers got hired. Solskjaer has to deal with the fodder that was left to him when he was hired after Mourinho's tenure. He has not had the backing from the board because if we don't sign Bruno Fernandes this transfer window and we don't meet the sporting demands for the payments for him, I might fly down to England and talk to Ed Woodward myself because it would be... I'm lost for words on the feelings. You spent $80 million on Harry Maguire, who at the time you needed a center back, and if that was your only sort of purchase you could make, fine. It's better than having to play Phil Jones or Chris Smalling consistently, given that Eric Bailly is always injured. Because Phil Jones is fucking horrendous. So with Harry Maguire, I get the price was a lot, but it's better than not having Harry Maguire. But you won't meet the demands for Bruno Fernandes, who is on the shortlist for the UEFA Team of the Year, for the FIFA Team of the Year. How can you do that? How can you say that Bruno Fernandes gives the ball away too much and that he's not good enough for Manchester United in the summer? When you have the opportunity again to buy him now and you're reluctant to give them the sum of money. Would you rather watch Andreas Pereira play every single game at the 10? Because I sure as hell don't want to see that. You see him at the top of the box. He was finding new creative ways to lose the ball whenever United got into attacking positions against Liverpool. Looking at the squad, again, very poor squad. This is not a squad that should be challenging for a league title. This is not a squad that should be expecting to finish top 4. It's a squad that should be hopeful to finish top 4. And with the revelation Marcus Rashford has been having an absolute career season, unfortunately for him, and poor work from the United medical staff, he won't be featured in the United squad for quite some weeks. It's looking like 2 to 3 months. By the way, awful on the United medical staff for not realizing that he could not play against Wolves. Because he got subbed in, played, 15, 20 minutes, got subbed out. I get he was a contributor to the goal. But I would rather have Marcus Rashford for the next 2 to 3 months than him getting that assist. Maybe we could still win the game without him, maybe we don't. But I'd rather have Marcus Rashford for the next 2 to 3 months, given that he was not fit for that FA Cup tie. The league is definitely the focus. But again, let's circle it back to the question at hand. Should they fire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Absolutely not. What did you expect with this squad? What do you expect from any other manager that comes in for the rest of the season? Realistically, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets fired. Who is available management-wise? Niko Kovac, potentially, but he wasn't tremendous with Bayern Munich with an even more formidable squad in an even worse league than the Premier League. He was fine. I don't think he should have been fired to begin with, but is he going to turn around with the squad that we have? Is Max Allegri going to come in and turn around with the squad that we have? No. There's no manager in the world that could compete very well with the player pool that Manchester United have. It is the board. Something needs to be done about the board, and I've said this before on this show. Something needs to be done about the board, or nothing is ever going to change. We're going to sit here banging our fucking heads against the wall, expecting something to change, repeating the same thing, recycling managers. Give the manager some stage transfers. Let him decide on what he wants to put in his team. Because if you're going to cook the dinner, you got to buy the groceries. How can you just give me something to work with? I want to buy the things that I want to work with. The best output is going to be when I search, when I handpick and select the ingredients that I want to make my dish with. When the board just hands you players that you don't have plans for and you throw them into a team and the gel isn't there, it's not going to come off very well. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. With no backing, there's not even any ingredients coming through the door for him to work with. How can you expect Solskjaer to work with what he's been given, with what Ed Woodward is giving to him? There is nothing that he can do when he has to play Andreas Pereira or Jesse Lingard every single game. And there's no other solution. Juan Mata, I don't think he can give you a solid 90 minutes anymore, unless you're in the cup and you're playing a worse squad. Juan Mata doesn't offer a ton anymore, and I love Juan Mata, but he's not up to the grade at the moment. We need to focus on the rebuild under Solskjaer. Give him backing. Give him time. Let him work within the club. You see the young products coming through. Brandon Williams is already better than Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw he was awful 2 days ago against Liverpool, and he's been awful. I don't know how in fucking God's name he won Manchester United Player of the Season last year. Brandon Williams has been exceptional. Every game he looks even better. Definitely should be starting above Luke Shaw. Mason Greenwood's come in, and he's scoring goals. What does he have, 5 goals on this season? I think up to the Liverpool game, he had 5 and 7. Something like that. He's scoring goals, and he's 18. This is the kind of product that we've expected from Solskjaer. The Dan James signing. Look how good Dan James has been playing for his price point. You can't expect the world out of Dan James at that young of an age, making such a huge jump from Swansea to Manchester United. There's different levels to those clubs. So how can you realistically expect us to compete with that personnel? Giving Solskjaer time is going to be the solution. If there is a solution under Ed Woodward, the ultimate solution is to get rid of Ed Woodward and start fresh. Start with a new board, back the manager. We have to give him time. Again, I'll go back to Jurgen Klopp. What was he, 7th in his first season? Didn't win any trophies 3.5 years? Was there ever any scrutiny under Jurgen Klopp's job? No, because they knew the project. You saw what Liverpool were doing for 4 years. This is no accident that they're first in the Premier League right now, about to win their first Premier League. This has been coming and creeping up for years. Look at the squad they've put together, because when Jurgen Klopp doesn't like somebody who's starting, he replaces him with somebody that he wants. Pep Guardiola came in to Manchester City, and I think he sold all 4 of the fullbacks they had and bought new ones that he wanted to use. Look at the success that he's had. We think that Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp are the best in the world because we gave them time. Would Jurgen Klopp be considered the best in the world if he was fired after 1 year in charge of Liverpool? Oh, you didn't win us any trophies. You came seventh in the league. Absolutely not. Maybe it would be at another job that gave him time. But because they gave him time, he had time to nurture the squad, build up into his system. All the Liverpool academies play the same style so that they can jump into the squad without missing a beat. That's how I think Solskjaer wants to work with the United Academy. And I think Solskjaer is making the right kind of signings to build us up. The Wan-Bissaka signing which was tremendous. Dan James has looked very good. Maguire, even though we overpaid, he's our new captain. And I'll just touch on this briefly. Who else did you want to be captain? We don't have any other person to be captain. And behind the scenes, apparently Maguire's a good leader. And the lads respect him. And, the players are okay with it. I think he was the right guy. Who else would you put? I would have liked Scott McTominay, but I think it's a little too early for him. I think in the future you can look at a guy like Scott McTominay as captain material, but not at this particular juncture. All in all, I've rambled. But just to sum it up, look at Manchester United's squad of players, especially given that Pogba has not been fit almost all season. Especially that. Look at the squad of players. There is nobody in the world who's a manager who can get a quality output week in, week out from that player pool. Ole Solskjaer is rebuilding. We need to rebuild. We need to understand there are going to be ups and downs in the season, but we need to be patient with what we have. There are some good performances. There are some bad performances. We cannot overreact to whichever end of the spectrum the performance lies on. We need to understand the big picture. Understand that we are progressing in the right direction. Marcus Rashford, before the injury, was absolutely phenomenal. Third in the Premier League in goals with 14. Tremendous. He was on pace for a 20-goal season plus, which United haven't had since Robin van Persie played for us. It's been a while. We are progressing in the correct direction with the players that we have. It is up to the board to back Solskjaer with the players he sees fit to make the squad even better. Bruno Fernandes, by the way, is one of those players that would make us significantly better. Signing a striker to take away game time from Rashford, Greenwood, and Martial is not the answer when there's so many gaping holes in the midfield. You could say we need a better left back because I don't like Luke Shaw. I think Brandon Williams, another left back, would swap out in and out of the role very well. We are fine at right back. I think we could do with a center back because they're inconsistent. Maguire was quite frankly, he was awful against Liverpool, as was Lindelof. A striker is not the position that we ultimately need based on the other positions that are glaringly obvious that we need help. Because striking wise, I don't have a problem with Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood as our three striking options. I get that, I'd like maybe at this time next year to see Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood as the front three. I think that's a scary front three to deal with. Even though it's kind of a useless stat, the three of them combined have more goals than Mane, Salah, Firmino, even though those guys offer a lot of different things, and obviously they contribute to the game a lot more, and the midfield helps them out a bit more, and they're not just getting the ball and hoping that they can create something. Obviously, a bit of an empty stat, but I mean, the stat is still there. They're just showing you that our front three is scoring goals, but that isn't a problem. The midfield, we need the 10. We need Bruno Fernandes. We need a 6 or an 8 to sit alongside either Fred or McTominay, the way that they've both been playing this season, or Pogba if he even decides to stay. And then we need some bolstering at the back. But striking is probably the least of our worries at the moment, quite frankly. You could argue the goalkeeper, but hey, we don't know about De Gea, and he hasn't been tremendous. Well, he has been. He was tremendous against Liverpool, but he does make a lot of mistakes, and that needs to be corrected. But I don't think we need to worry about that position here, especially that we have the best backup goalkeeper in the world. The forwards, along with the goalkeepers, are not to be worried about. Wingers, you could look at a right winger to bolster the squad a little bit because maybe you'd rather have Greenwood playing central. You could get a better right winger. Dan James could be a good impact player off the bench given his pace. I don't think he's quite at the level that we want him to be yet, but he will get there, in my opinion, at some point. I don't think he'll be a superstar in the Premier League by any stretch, but I think he'll be good enough to start for a team like Manchester United. But midfield, for sure, needs bolstering. Back Ole, give him time, let him get the players he wants for the squad. Let him replace the deadwood that we have in the team, because there's certainly a lot of that. By the way, another alarming stat just to finish off. Manchester United's wage bill is second in the world in terms of football. Second. Only one team spends more. What is going on in the recruiting process that this player pool, which is not a good player pool, like I've said extensively over this episode, how is that getting paid more than every team in the world, barring one? That shows you the inability to recruit from the board and that they just splurge on players they see fit. Because a lot of guys, and Ashley Young is one of the deadwood pieces that just got sold, who was getting way too much money. That's just one of the many in the squad, and there's a lot of work to do. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in a year. It's years down the road. But we need to back Ole to sort us out and right the ship. The answer is not firing Ole and creating a revolving door at the front of Old Trafford for the next manager, and then the next one, and then the next one. Let's have some stability. Let's work under Ole. Let's build up. Thank you for listening to this episode. We post every day. I will see you again tomorrow.